Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Unique Items. Today we're going to be looking at a relatively crazy item, as you can see by my character's appearance, of these red, awesome looking swords. These are some swords, well, two of them, they're the same, but one is ethereal and one is regular. They got some pretty crazy effects on them. And theoretically, if you use two of them, you could have some very interesting abilities. We are on the public test realm, where Inferno has been buffed up, and I'd like to test out Inferno and see what the hell's going on with these particular swords, and maybe a character who might want to utilize them. So, if you've never seen this weapon before, it is called Flamebellow. Flamebellow is a relatively interesting looking sword, as you can see by my character's portrait here, that does some pretty interesting effects. It has a damage of 51 to 255 one-handed, 187 to 401 two-handed. It does have a strength requirement of 87 and a dex requirement of 87, a strength requirement of 185, which is pretty high, and a level requirement of 71. Now, this particular item, it does have a fast attack speed, and it unfortunately does not have any increase to attack speed. It has a 12% chance to cast level 16 Firestorm on striking, and of course Firestorm is the Druid ability, and at level 16 it does 75 to 87 damage, which is relatively poor. If you had it fully synergized on a Druid, it could do a little bit more than that, I'm sure, but that's not really very good. We also have +3 to fire skills on this particular item, which is going to come in handy because these particular blades are going to give us a bonus to our damage. And looks like Chimmy Choo Choo has come in to see me. Chimmy Choo Choo! Come here, Chimmy! Come! I left the door open because it's really hot, and Chimmy has decided to come see me. That's so cute. Let me see if I can get her to come over, and I'll bring her up on camera. Alas, I am not a cat caller. I could not get her to come over. She's still crying at me, though. Maybe she'll come over on her own. That is what cats do, after all. So, this particular item does have 240% enhanced damage, which is a variable of 170 to 240%. It also has a pretty massive amount of fire damage on it, of 233 to 482, which is pretty darn sweet. And I've talked about this a lot in various videos, and I feel like I need to talk about it again, is that you do not get the fire damage on weapons to both weapons. So if I'm wielding two weapons and I have 233 to 482 fire damage on one weapon, the other weapon does not get the fire damage. It does not add up cumulatively between weapons. For some reason or another, weapons have what is called on-weapon abilities and off-weapon abilities. Fire damage is considered an on-weapon ability, which means that it only applies to that specific weapon. We also have +18 to Inferno. Yes, you heard correctly. +18 to Inferno. Now, this is a variable, and it does vary between 12 to 18, but it is a massive amount of plus to skills to the skill Inferno. And as you can see by my Inferno ability, I have level 45 Inferno, which is kind of nuts, considering that I am not a sorceress. We also have +20 to strength on this, which does vary from 10 to 20, and +10 to vitality, which varies from 5 to 10. We have another very nice effect on here of fire absorption, which is 20 to 30% fire absorption, which means that utilizing both of these blades, we have a total of 60% fire absorption, which means that any fire damage that comes in is going to be absorbed by 60%, which is just massive. Now, these blades are rather weird. They are. And I'm not going to lie to you. A lot of people don't use them. And the reason why a lot of people don't use them is, well, because Inferno sucks. And despite the fact that it gives you a relatively high level Inferno, it just doesn't really do very well. You know what I mean? But here's the thing. In the upcoming patch, they have patched Inferno to do more damage, to apply its damage better. And utilizing 2 of these, you could theoretically put your character up to a massive level 45 Inferno. And you know what? Let's go play around with the idea of potentially having an Inferno Barbarian. Could be kind of weird and interesting, right? And of course, once we do our shouts, we end up at level 46 with a 612 to 642 Inferno damage. And let's see what kind of damage we can do with our Inferno, shall we? Not exactly very impressive. I can't remember if we're on Players 8, though. Let me double check here and see if we're on Players 8 or Players 1. Because it definitely would be unfair to test this on Players 8, because I doubt it's a Players 8 build. No, never mind. We're on Players 1. I guess let's go test this in a zone that's a little bit more our speed, since Inferno is such a terrible skill. It's just such a slow damage skill. It always has been such a slow damage skill, and it never really kind of exceeded itself. I mean, the weapons themselves aren't terrible, and I guess the novel idea of being able to cast Inferno is certainly cute. I mean, it can kill some lower tier monsters relatively easy, but not anything like specifically that's going to be much of a threat to you. This guy is immune to fire, of course, so no damage to him. I mean, let's see how long it would take to kill one, I don't know, Crusher. How about that? Give me your Crushers. Hey, we did it. Not impressive. Now, the swords themselves, though, are actually kind of nice, despite the fact that the Inferno is not. They do have pretty nice damage, and they also have a massive amount of fire absorption, which can certainly be useful in certain situations. And I mean, maybe, for instance, you wanted to farm, I don't know, the Council over and over again or something, and you just wanted to add one Flamebellow into your build, just so you had a massive 30% fire absorption. Or maybe you are in the middle of an Uber run and you're surrounded by pit lords and they're all burning you to death with Inferno, which is ironic, considering this gives you Inferno. And you put it on just to kind of help save your life. And I've done that before several times. I've been in situations where I've had massive amounts of fire damage coming in, and I usually keep like a Rising Sun or a Dwarf Star or something on hand, even a Dragon Shield. Not the Dragon Rune Word, but the Dragon Paladin Shield, because they have fire absorption and things like that, which will definitely come in handy to save your life in situations like that. So it could be an interesting choice for a sword barbarian, or well, basically just a sword barbarian, just to have that extra massive 30% fire absorption on hand, which could save your life in a certain situation. And of course, because it is two-handed, it is kind of limited on usability. Perhaps you could utilize this on a maybe a Fireclaw Druid, but it doesn't have any increased attack speed on it. You'd probably have to end up putting a Shale Rune in there. Maybe a Charge Paladin. I'm really scratching my head here, trying to figure out exactly what you could potentially use this for. I mean, I feel like the main character that it's designed for is the Barbarian. I mean, you can kind of see it's a really sexy looking sword when you wield it one-handed or two-handed. And if you were going to use the Ethereal version, I mean, you would have to put a Zod in it. So I mean, that's just what that is. I mean, it does do 278 to 601 damage on the two-handed with the Ethereal version, and 74 to 380 one-handed, which is certainly not bad. Although it's not like an amazingly higher number than the non-Ethereal version. So I'm not really sure about this. It's definitely an oddity, that's for sure. And it's one of those items that you'll find and you'll be like, huh, well, So So let's take a look over at Silo's Pen, and let's see where we could potentially find this item if we wanted to. Maybe you're looking to try and make your own Flamebellow Barbarian. In that case, let's give it a try, shall we? So, Flamebellow. Now, this is a relatively high-level item, and I'm going to assume that you are a magic finder, so you probably have 300% or higher magic find. Obviously, this is going to be something that you are hunting, so you're going to have your magic find gear on, and you'll be going to the optimal monsters. Looks like Diablo in Hell, and Baal in Hell, and Mephisto in Hell all have really decent chances to drop this particular item at 1 in 639 to 1 in 755, so not bad at all. I'm also, let's also take a look at super uniques really quickly. So, not the greatest chances on the super uniques, but Bonebreaker in the Crypt in Hell difficulty has a chance to drop this relatively nicely. And even Corpse Fire in the Den of Evil has a pretty good chance. He's really easy to farm. Lord Decease, Infector of Souls, Grand Visor of Chaos, all decent chances. Eldritch the Rectifier, Shank the Overseer, Doc Farron, Pindle Skin, Thresh Socket, Hephasto the Armor, all very good chances. Cold Crow is easy to farm. She's always in Cave level 1. Dark Elder and Beetle Burst, both easy to farm. They're Lost City and Far Oasis. Of course, all the monsters in the Durance of Hate. Of course, that's a much worse chance than the rest of them. Definitely a lot of good choices there as far as magic finding is concerned. It may be a little bit difficult to come by, though, just simply because it is a Balrog blade. But hopefully, if you're looking for one, or rather two, you'll be able to find one. Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, even when it is about a blowhard, inferno-y, fiery, crazy sword like this. And as always, keep watching.